right, hopefully everybody can see my screen. Again, welcome to our first general body meeting of the fiscal year. We typically will have this meeting in September. Our fiscal year starts in August, but given everything that's been going on with COVID and our priority on an event that we had in September called Fresh Start, which I'll share more about as a part of this presentation, we decided to defer this first kickoff meeting till until now. And so thanks for your patience in us getting going with this. And we hope that we'll get back to a normal cadence in terms of the scheduling moving forward for the rest of the year. We start every meeting off with our NSBE mission. This is what drives all of our programming. And so we start our mission. We start off with a mission for every meeting. And that mission is to increase the number of culturally responsible Black engineers who excel academically, succeed professionally, and positively impact the community. I saw a few miles moving for our members, so I appreciate that. We usually say that in unison if we're in person, but obviously we can't do that today. But next time around, we'll be unmuting everybody. Hopefully, we can say it in unison. Uh, the agenda for today: introductions for the executive board. Just wanted to show their faces and names so that you know who they are. I'll share a little bit about myself, and then we'll talk through the chapter vision and strategy for this 2020-2021 fiscal year. I'll go over very briefly our calendar of events. This will be information that we'll share as a part of this slide deck on our website. So you'll be able to come back to it and refer to it moving forward. And then we'll go ahead and do our introductions for our guest panel today. So I want to give enough time for us to make those introductions as well as share a little bit about Optum. And then we'll jump into our panel discussion. Hopefully, we want it to be as interactive as possible. I mentioned it at the beginning of the meeting, but if you haven't already, there should be a poll. That's a part of the Zoom. If you can fill out that poll within the next 10 or 15 minutes, we'll have what we need to kind of guide the conversation. And as well, we'll be doing some prize giveaways as a part of the event. So, executive board, again, my name is Eclemus Ricks, president. Lakeisha Small serves as our vice president. Sherry Mitchell serves as our secretary, as well as our social media liaison or a lead, as we are looking for somebody for that position. So talk about that in a little bit as well. Jeremy Barnett is our telecom chair. And I believe Jeremy's on, and you can unmute yourself. Jeremy, say hello, man.
Hey, what's up, everybody? How you guys doing? You need me to say anything else?
Sure, man. Tell them where you're at, where you work at, and
I'm at
background.
Dell Technologies in Round Rock. I work full remote now, though, but I work with the Fed IT operations team, I'm a systems engineer. I've been with NSBE AP since 2017, and I've been on the board since I believe the summer of last year.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Mhm.
Also on our board is Gregory Harrington. He's serving as our treasurer. Greg, you want to say hello?
Hi guys, Greg Carrington, graduate of Jackson State University. Stand up, D. I love. I see Mitch and Didi on represent J State as well. I work at Dell is the phrase that pays. I've been involved in NSBE for 10 years, so I pretty much I think since I stepped down in Austin, so glad to have everybody here. And I'm the treasurer, been past president. Um, Along with regional capacities on a regional board for the professionals as well. So glad to see Brother Gregory Reeves on here. I see you shaking your head, bro. Much love.
Appreciate it, Greg. Appreciate it. Travis West is our membership chair. I'm not sure he's hopped on just yet. We'll have him share if he does. Norbert Yuma is our finance chair, and Denzel Green is our college initiative chair. We have an open position for the pre college initiative chair, and we're looking for that to more than likely be a co chair responsibility. So you won't have to do it alone. We are heavily centered around our building the pipeline of engineers. So a lot of our efforts as a chapter are going to be tied to our middle school and high school students. And so we would definitely want to have somebody in the position before the end of the year as soon as possible. But it won't be something that we won't we'll leave you to do on your own. There's a strong support system as far as our e-board, and we've been doing our events that we do in our programming for quite some time. So it won't be a heavy lift, but we definitely could use somebody in a leadership role. And then also as another position that I didn't have listed, as I mentioned, Sherry has been filling in the role of social media uh, lead in person, but it is definitely something that we could use to support with, even if it was a committee. As you know, social media is heavily a part of our existence right now, especially with the social distancing and COVID and all that. And we would benefit from having somebody with either that expertise or background or just passion to step in and keep us connected to you all, the membership, but also kind of spread the word about what we do. So if you're interested in that, look already. So just put it out there and people will take it up. All right, Didi. I don't know if that's you or Mitchell, but we'll assume it's both of y'all so y'all can tag team. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I'll follow up with you all on that role shortly after this meeting. Awesome. Appreciate that. All right, so I want to check in with Denise before we do our our next um, our next raffle here. But while we're doing that, as I mentioned before, we are the NSBE fiscal year goes from August 1st to July 31st. So if you were a paid member last year, it's time for your new registration. So nationals, I believe, is 50, and then our chapter dues are 20. This link right here will pay your chapter dues. It's totally separate, so it goes directly to our chapter. Nationals goes directly to nationals. So all of our programming that we do, that $20 is going to go directly towards supporting that. As well, on that website, you can purchase a NSBE T-shirt if you don't have one already. We actually have polos available for purchase. So I have one on right now with the nice little NSBE logo right here with the Austin professionals under it. So if you are interested in supporting the chapter through that as well, that's on the website. So Denise, how are we looking? Do we have everybody's name in the random generator?
Yep. I'm ready
Okay.
to click the button.
All right. Now I do need to give bonuses. So are you able to give like an extra or repeat the name or something to give people who have their cameras on right now an extra ticket? Can you do that?
Ah. I mean, I have everybody's name here, so I mean, I guess I
Could you
can.
repeat their name or put like a one at the end of their
Yeah,
same?
yeah. I'll take a
Everybody
note
that has
here.
a yeah, everybody that has their camera on right now gets an extra ticket. It's not too late, so you want to.
Okay.
Nobody's gonna take on it. Okay, we'll let it be. All right. So Greg, our treasurer, he's going to take the emails. So if you are announced as a winner of these first two raffles, we are going to send you a e gift card for Grubhub. I think it's what 25, Greg. We say. All right. So that's enough to have a meal ready for you when you get home, or all of us are probably home now, but uh, when the meeting's over. So, are we ready for our first name, Denise?
Yeah, I actually just spun it. So just let me know when you're ready for
All
me to
right,
announce
let's.
the name.
All right, what's the first name?
All right, first
First
name
winner,
is Mitchell Lee.
Mitchell Lee. Look at that. These are grew up. Mitchell, would you direct chat Greg in the message box your email, and you'll get your gift certificate going. All right, who's our next winner?
All right. Next one is Janice Watts.
Janice, congratulations. Would you do us a kindness and send your email to Greg Harrington in the chat, and we will get your gift certificate to you. All right. We'll do a couple more, and I believe the Optum folks have prizes to give away as well, so we'll be doing that throughout the meeting as well.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to spend a few moments talking about our chapter vision. If you were here about a year and a half ago, this slide would look familiar to you because it didn't change much. When I took over as the president of the chapter, I felt it was necessary for us to align ourselves to a vision that would allow for us to create programming and support programming and partnerships that would focus our attention and focus our efforts towards a common goal. We obviously have the NSBE mission, and we fulfill that mission in different ways, given that we're a professional chapter, and other chapters do it differently as well. So I wanted to be pretty clear about what our intentions were as a chapter, so that moving forward, when we evaluate whether or not there was an event or a programming that we want to consider, we had a clear vision of whether or not it would fit uh, within that vision. So to summarize, NSBE AP will be a highly visible chapter that fulfills the NSBE mission through a handful of well executed flagship events in partnership with the community and like minded organizations. And so, really, what that boils down to is making sure we don't reinvent the wheel, but whatever we do as a unique event to our organization, we do it at a high level and execution. So that can mean different things, but um, it does require that we only take on what we can handle given the capacity of our membership and involvement. So the more we have as far as engaged and active members, the more we can do. If we have what we've had in the past, we will continue to do that, and we'll do it at a high level. So the NSBE mission obviously is at the forefront of that, and the way I break down the vision is through those key areas. So excelling academically is a part of the mission, and that's really for us to focus on the pre-college initiatives. And so we have some main initiatives. The top two bullets that you see on your screen, Fresh Start and Engineering Day, are what we do annually and what we do as a unique event to our chapter. Fresh Start is an event that we actually just had our very first virtual form of in September of this year. And kudos to everybody that played a part to that. I know a lot of our Schwabies are on today. They participated as volunteers. We had over 300 registrants for this event. It was including volunteers, parents, and students, grades 6 through 12th grade, where we were doing a virtual experience that we typically would do on site at a different corporate partner. It's usually applied materials, but given obviously COVID, we didn't feel comfortable, and they weren't able to accommodate us on site. So we were determined to do it anyway. And so September 13th, we held a virtual Fresh Start where we had students and parents engaged over different Zooms and workshops throughout the day, doing hands-on workshops still. Our intent for Fresh Start is really to spark the interest for the students in STEM areas. And so we're wanting to, our intent is to make engaging workshops that allow them to kind of put their hands on and interact and, be a part of the experience of engineering to get, just a hands-on experience with that. And so we still wanted to get that type of feel in the virtual space. So what we did was we created kits prior to the event that we distributed on a couple of weekends before the event. So the kids still had the materials and different um, items that were used in the various workshops, and then we also had a set of or a track of workshops for the parents as well. And we even this year, because we were virtual, were able to engage the NASA site in Houston to do a couple of workshops. So we were really excited about how well it went. We got some great feedback, and it really was a testament to the determination of our members as well as our executive board and getting it done. So just wanted to highlight that and give kudos to everybody that participated in that and supported the event. We don't know what the future holds, obviously, with COVID, but we know that having done it, we could do it again, and if we have to, we'll continue to do it. So our chapter is committed to doing Fresh Start at least annually. There was a point where we did it twice a year in both fall and spring, and so that's still a potential option for us if we get the programming and the support from volunteers to make it happen. The second initiative under the PCI is the engineering day. And this is the experience where we actually take the students to the engineers and see where they actually work and, where they you know, do their work. So Fresh Start was more about the sparking the interest. Engineering day is for those that were interested or have been expressing an interest in engineering, helping them to see, okay, what does it look like to be a chip manufacturer or a chip designer. So we visited Intel, or what does it mean to manage servers at a in a cloud services. So we've been to Rackspace or mechanical engineering. We took the students to the Toyota motor manufacturing site in San Antonio. So engineering day again is something that we as a chapter are committed to doing, and we have to reinvent that for this time that we're in with COVID. So I'll be looking to the membership for ideas. We brainstorm a bit as a executive board, but we haven't finalized on what that would look like, and that's typically done in February because that's engineering month. As a national organization, we have a lot of programming uh, that goes on in February, and we try to align Engineering Day with that. So if you're interested in helping, or if you maybe have an idea that you think would kind of fit um, that type of initiative, please reach out to me or anybody on the executive board. And then the last three are aligned with the pre-college initiatives that we would like to further through partnership. TAME is the Texas Alliance of Minorities in Engineering. Many of you that have NSBE history probably were from Texas probably know about TAME and how close the two are intertwined. They literally were founded in the same time frame, like within a year or so's time. So partnership with them really looks like supporting their annual design competition that we were able to audit and participate as volunteers this past year. And it was really exciting to see the type of things that the kids were doing just in a day event where they are given the challenge and the materials and they work together as a team that is formed at the site. So they don't know the students and they may come from different schools and different backgrounds and grade levels, and they're given a challenge to complete. And so this is something we would look to um, host as a chapter in a way that most of the TAME chapters work, they have regional competitions that are supported by the corporate or by the central headquarters organization. So they give you all the materials, they give you the design challenge and everything, all the instructions. It's basically a, out of box, experience. And they just have the volunteers that are coming from that host site, like a Chevron or a Dell, or in our case, it could be NSBE AP. So that's kind of the vision for PCI moving forward. Again, we wanted to start off just by auditing the experience to make sure we would be able to contribute to it. And having gone through it and saw what it was about, it was great to see. And I think we could do it. And then the same goes for the First Robotics. First Robotics has been around for a long time. I got involved in it as a mentor when I was working at National Instruments, and they have a well-oiled machine there too. And so, seeing a partnership with them is something that I would like to see. And then annually we do a scholarship, and this year we're looking to kind of meet the needs of our remote students that are in college. So purchasing laptops for students that are in need is the type of thing that we're looking to do over this next year of COVID social distancing. Um, I talked longer than I planned on that subject, but that's our big piece. So I'm gonna race through the other ones. The other ones, succeeding professionally is about engaging with you all, the professional membership. So our general body meetings, our networking events that are on and off every other month is what the focus is for that. The collegiate initiatives are really about just supporting the local chapters at UT and HTU. And then our cultural responsible piece is really about, again, making sure we don't reinvent the wheel or do things in isolation. We want to make sure we're partnering with organizations that have similar missions, or a lot of you all are in those organizations, either whether it be, fraternal or sororities that you're a part of, or you might be in another professional organization like the Black MBA, all sorts of organizations that have similar missions related to STEM, and maybe even programming that's well run within the Austin area. We're going to look to partner with them and make sure that their events are well attended and meet the needs. So I talked a lot, and again, that was vision from last year that we're carrying forward. I wanted to narrow in on a couple of strategies that we want to employ for this year, and it's really about building the 10K goal pipeline. So does anybody, our NSBE members, does anybody know what the 10K goal is, first and foremost? I know my executive board members know it because I talk about it all the time, and Gregory, you probably know it as well. But for those that don't know, uh, the NSBE National Executive Board in 2015 laid out a goal to graduate 10,000 Black engineers annually. So getting basically 10,000 Black students graduating with bachelor's in engineering annually by 2025. And so we're about halfway through that mark. And as a chapter, our focus and our passion is on building the pipeline. So in order for us to have that many students pursuing engineering degrees, we have to spark that interest in the middle school and high school age students. And so that's what we're doing. That's what we will continue to do. But really, we want to make sure that we're actually quantifying that. And so those other two items, increasing one-to-one mentorship and following the data, are really aligned with, all right, for each student that attends our Fresh Start event, how are we tracking whether or not they end up going and applying to an engineering school? And then once they do get accepted and go, do they actually graduate? We want to be able to quantify that, manage that as a chapter to say, over the last 10 years that we've been doing Fresh Start, this has, turned into, 1% of that 10,000 that we're we're aiming to graduate as an organization. So um, that's our strategy. Obviously, going to need as many members active in our strategy. So if you're passionate about data, if you're passionate about just kind of bringing about infrastructure to keep kids engaged as well as our professionals engaged, would love to have you involved on our executive board as or any committee that would support that. All right, I did a lot of talking. I still have more talking to do because I'm moderating this discussion. So I'll be quick about the calendar of events, and we'll do another raffle for food. This lays out our calendar. This will be on our website. The cadence is general body meeting 1 month, networking the next, and so that's pretty much how we'll move until the end of the spring or summer, start of the summer, and then we usually take a break over June and July just to get ready for the next year. Uh, Wanted to mention the national convention is in March and it will be virtual as well. All right. Okay. We're going to do another raffle. Denise, we need two more names. We're going to do the uh, the two extra uh, Grubhub gift certificates so people can get fed. And then I will actually turn it over to you, Denise. I think you're going to do the introduction about Optum, and then I'll take it back over to do the introduction of our panelists. So, couple two, couple two winners or two winners, please.
Yeah, so the first one was Laditra, Laditra Lee, if I'm saying
Okay,
that
see the
right.
leads are just locking in, and I see they're gonna have the Crab Kings for dinner today.
Pretty much. And then the next one was Radhika, if I'm saying that one right.
Congratulations to you both. Now, don't hate Chris, man. It's all right.
I just
Well,
did this randomly. I'm just using a
right.
site, so it's not me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Chris, y'all work
Awesome.
together, so y'all could probably work something out. Um, so we'll do some more. Uh, we'll do some more raffling as the day goes through. Again, if you haven't filled out the poll, do the poll real quick so we can uh, close that out. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Denise, to give your spiel on Optum, United Healthcare.
Sure. Yeah. So good evening, everyone, wherever you're at. Um, so just like Aklima said, I work for Optum. My name's Denise Gatson, and I'm also a part of the Shades Diversity and Inclusion Group, the Austin chapter of that. So Optum is kind of one leg of a two-pronged system under United Health Group. So you might hear us talk about UHG or United Health Group. It's kind of at the top. Then you have Optum, which is kind of like the healthcare tech side. And then you have UHC, which everyone knows of United Healthcare. So everybody knows about the insurance company, but fewer folks know more about the healthcare tech side of Optum. So even though we're kind of tech focused, we really are about kind of connecting people and ideas across the healthcare ecosystem to create better care for everybody. So we have all different walks of life within our organization, from providers and clinical nurses to the more techie folks that are in tech support and kind of the engineering groups like folks that are part of NSBE. So with that diversity, kind of brings me to the Shades group. Again, it's a diversity inclusion group. We're all about kind of creating a space where people feel comfortable, kind of bringing their whole selves to work. We want to create kind of a diverse workplace. And that's whether, you're Black, you're white, whatever you identify with, and also, different experiences in terms of professionalism and tenure. So if you're a newbie to the workforce, whether you're tech or not, to the most seasoned folks, we're pretty much going to connect with you. So myself, Stacey Boswick, who's on the call, Patty Jordan, who is one of our panelists tonight, are the chairs for the Austin chapter. And, we're just really excited about this event. This is kind of the third iteration of this event that we've put on in the past year, year and a half. And I think it's safe to say that I can speak for all three of us and say that every single time we put this on, it's just really exciting. It's almost like it's the first time. But if anybody has any questions about Shades, about UHG, Optum, I did see some folks posting openings within our organization. I think we'll have our contact information that'll be available, so y'all can reach out to us and connect. So we're really excited about this. We hope that y'all will enjoy the panel discussion. You have some really great panelists. I am biased because they are part of our org, but really great folks, and just really great to be here tonight.
Thank you again, Denise, and great to partner with you on this event. We were able to, or I was able to, and our previous PCI chair was able to participate in, I don't know what iteration it was, maybe the first or second version of it. And we enjoyed it. And so felt like it was I'm a board game enthusiast, so it was already kind of, I connected with it immediately. But uh, just having met with the panelists yesterday and talking through kind of potential questions, it's even more exciting to go forward. And so I'm going to do the introductions, and then we will jump into our discussion. If at any time you have questions that you want to ask the panelists, please feel free to post them in the chat. There are a couple of questions that I have pre-prepared for us to start the discussion, but we will definitely leave time and the opportunity for you all to get your questions answered as well. All right. If I can find my mouse on my screen. Here we go. So our first panelist is Yaw Felon. He is the vice president of product at Optum as a part of Optum Insight. Yaw is a data and analytics product leader, driving product strategy, product execution, and capital planning for data and analytics solutions supporting multiple markets. He's an experienced healthcare executive and general manager with over 15 years of leading cross functional teams, generating hospital and health system performance improvement, and driving revenue growth. Y'all has three children, 11, 8, and 6. He loves going to his daughter's softball games, relishing in the energy of watching her try and fail and do great. He also enjoys running and has participated in a half marathon, but has a life goal to not complete a full marathon. Awesome. Next is Patty Jordan, Director of Engineering, part of the Product Engineering Analytics team. She leads a global team of cloud operations and DevOps engineers based in Austin, Boston, DC, and India. Her team's mandate this year is to facilitate the move to cloud and remove all of their assets from third party data centers. As a center of excellence for cloud operations, they determine best practices for operating in the cloud. Prior to working with Optum, Patty was a database administrator for over 15 years. She was born in Cameroon and raised in Washington, D.C. area. She moved to Austin 5 years ago with her husband and 10 years, with her husband of 10 years and three kids. She enjoys donating her time to kids' activities, reading, and watching sports. Last but not least is Mark Garcia. Mark is the senior manager, systems management at Optum Tech, CRIS. Mark leads teams who help non-integrated business partners, basically through acquisitions, take their steps into integration with Optum's core IT infrastructure. His current assignment is managing infrastructure for 4 data centers for the Optum Provider Group. Mark manages a globally distributed team across the US and India. He's a native Texan who was able to trace his family history to land decrees from the King and Queen of Spain. He is a lover of music, except country, and an avid soccer fan. He is married with 2 daughters and has lived in the Austin area for about 30 years, which includes his time at Texas State University, where he earned his bachelor's and master's degree in geography. Welcome to our panelists. I want to make sure we have a good sound check before we start asking questions. So I'm just going to make sure that all Mark, Patty, and y'all, you all can unmute yourselves and give us a hello, would you please?
Hello.
I am also going to work to add you all to the spotlight here. Get your box in. Okay, Mark can't unmute himself because I haven't made him go. So let me find you, Mark. Give me a second. There you are. There he is. Okay, Mark. All right, so we got our panelists. Welcome. Thank you again for joining us. We're talking about chess and checkers, navigating your career. So we've centered our questions in our poll on that particular theme. So I'm just going to start by asking a very simple question. What do you prefer, chess or checkers? Y'all, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Really appreciate the opportunity to join you all this evening. And I've been thinking a lot about this question, Aklimus, maybe because you prompted it yesterday. So I have to admit, my favorite is chess, if we're talking about just what's the best game to play. And that's only been reinforced. My 6-year-old has been challenging me to many, many games of checkers. And playing checkers with a 6-year-old, it's awesome in some respects, but I do like kind of, getting into a little bit more strategy and, not as rapid of a game. But as I was thinking about this in relation to my career, it's pretty interesting. I've always thought about my career more in the context of chess. And I think there's 2 elements of chess that, that I would kind of relate to my career development. One is just the concept of thinking a couple of moves ahead. I've always been a big proponent of not just looking at the next role, but the next 2 or 3 roles that I might be interested in, or the next 2 or 3 skills, whatever the context might be. I think the other element of chess that really resonates for me in my career is around leveraging different resources to accomplish different things. And so, if you think about the game of chess, you've got different pieces that all kind of move in different ways and have different utilities. And I've been very fortunate in my career to have a lot of mentors or a lot of supporters as I've made my way through different organizations. And I definitely think of each of them as having something different to offer in the same way that you get different things out of chess pieces. But Aklimus, you really prompted yesterday, like, wow, like there's actually a lot of strategy involved with checkers, and there's something to checkers as well, right? It's strategic, it's fast paced, it's fast moving. So, as I reflected on that part of the conversation, I do think there is a space for checkers, right? I'll double dip here. I would say there's a best of both worlds, as I thought more about it, checkers probably might describe how I view any given year. What are the objectives? What's the strategy for that year? How do I move at a pretty fast pace? Even if chess is probably the way that I think, more broadly about my career and what I'm focused on.
Thank you. Yeah, we talked a little bit, and y'all self-proclaimed politician. So I told him we might have to follow up on so I'm not surprised you double dipped and said both. So
That's right.
it's all good. Patty, how about you? What's your favorite or preference between chess and checkers?
My favorite is also chess. I like the strategy. I like the rules. Yes, and then the fact that each piece has their specific path. The interesting thing though is up until about 5 years ago, my career was more of a checkers. Like it wasn't long-term strategy. I wasn't thinking 3 or 4 moves ahead. I was opportunistically growing. An opportunity would present itself. I would take it and then keep moving. Um, and even when I kind of took a step away from being in the engineer space and supported the tier one team, it was very opportunistic. At that time, I wanted a better work-life balance. A third kid, I kind of followed y'all in the whole kids. We have kids about the same age, but by the time I had the third one, I could not be up all night with work and with kids, right? So I picked a role that made sense at the time. But since then, I've definitely started strategizing a little more, thinking more 2 or 3 moves ahead. If I do this and I can do that, in order to do X, I need to do Y, and thinking more in terms of where do I want to be and versus what title do I want to have. So rather than focusing on the specific pawn I need to play at that specific time, I need to think about, do I need to get this out of the way, and what can I use to get that out of the way so that I can get to where I need to go. So
All right, so I hear two for chess. Mark, what about you?
So I've got to say, I'm going to be the odd man out here.
soccer, Mark.
Checkers is really my game, and I'll tell you for two very strategic reasons. One, I never really learned how to play chess real well, and the first time my brothers, who were 4 years, I have twin younger brothers. The first time both of them were able to beat me, I was like, I'm done. But for me, checkers is a lot like what Jan and Patty have said. There's a fast-paced component about it. There's definitely, I think, some strategy in it, in that you have to at least see where you're going and know where you're gonna where to avoid some of the pitfalls of the checkerboard. But then I also just like to be able to know that regardless of from what place I start along the checkerboard, any one of those positions could be the winning position. So it's not like I have to start as a king or a queen to get to any place I pick, that could be the winning position. And so for me, there's opportunity in having a little more of a broad scale ability, to choose where I want to start from, choose my strategy, choose the moves. But also, like I said, I just like the fast pace of it. So.
Gotcha. And you actually kind of touched on the follow-up question I was going to ask for all of you in terms of when you learn to play either or both. Sounds like, Mark, you kind of were exposed to chess early on, and then it was like, hey, once the younger brothers took it over, it was like, okay, I'm moving strictly to the checkers. But we had a poll question that was centered around how long people had been in their professional careers, and surprisingly or not surprisingly, we actually have a almost even split on the call today. So the same percentage of people that are 0 to 5 years in their career as 5+ to 10 years and 10+ years. So we see just in this call the diversity of, of people in their tracks. And similar to that, like when was it that you started or were exposed to playing either game, and then how did that translate, or how do you translate that into how you started to apply that same thinking in your career? Were you playing checkers early on in your career and have moved more towards playing chess, or was it the opposite for you all? Why don't you start off, Mark, since you were mentioning it
Sure.
as your childhood?
So I will say that I remember learning to play checkers from my grandfather. He was a man of many grandchildren, but being the sons of the youngest of the daughters, we spent a lot of time with them. And so I remember him teaching me to play chess. I mean, to play checkers, because he also understood chess, but really didn't know how to play it real well. but we spend hours and hours playing chess, which eventually, as I got older, evolved into playing poker, but that's, like for another day. But he did teach me about, just, the basic rules. And then again, I have three brothers. When we were all there, he would have multiple boards and he would have two of us playing against each other. And then the winners of those two, of the two different boards would play against each other. And so we spent a lot of time just seeing how, different people's minds worked at a very young age. Now, I will say, the idea of chess and the beauty of people who can take and analyze a chessboard and recognize the different patterns and the different moves to get them to that checkmate position, is very fascinating to me. And I equate that a lot to growing as an individual in your career. When you're brand new, you want to get in, you want to make a name for yourself. You'll take the late nights, you'll take the early mornings, you'll take that, fast pace, do whatever it takes. But then as you get, a little bit longer in your career, you really want to be in that position where you're really thinking about how to do things long term, because generally that is the position of management. That is definitely the position of authority and of responsibility. And for me, that is where you start thinking strategically. So for me, where I first started thinking strategically was when I was first given the opportunity to manage a big project by myself. Even though I wasn't in, totally in the management position, it was almost like someone gave me that opportunity to try it out. And as a result of that, I was immediately after this project moved into a management position, managing the people that were part of that project, and it kind of just grew from there.
How about you, Patty?
I definitely learned checkers first as well. I think it's one of those games that's easier, as an easier concept to grasp. And then eventually my dad introduced us to checkers, to chess, sorry. And from a career perspective, that's kind of how it went as well. I mean, I went into school, I went to a liberal arts college in Williamsburg, and my intention was to do computer science, but the classes didn't pan out, so I just went to economics and mathematics. And then really loved it, so wanted to do my master's and needed to fund that. So I programmed on the side, and then that became my career. So and I started as a programmer, became a DBA, and now here I am. So it was really strategic, like where am I now on the board, and then I would move versus where do I want to get on the board, and then decide which pawn to use. So and again, interesting that now that I've gotten to where I am is where I really start thinking about less about, oh, I want to be a director, I want to be a senior director, I want to be a VP, but more, what do I want to do on a day-to-day? What really drives my passion when I'm at work? If I'm going to be away from these three kids and I'm going to be, around people that I might not like very much, what is really going to drive my passion? What is going to make me happy to get out of bed? What problems do I want to solve? And then figure out how do I get to solve those problems. And sometimes it's taking a role that's not necessarily aligned with what I had originally thought would get me there, but at least leverage, again, the pawns that I have, mentors, other peers to get to those projects that I know would really make me happy.
John?
Yeah, I don't remember learning to play checkers. And I will be very candid with you all. I actually learned how to play chess at a funeral. I was pretty young. I think I was 5 or 6. It wasn't one of those like bad funerals. It was probably my great grandfather or somebody that was older. But I still remember one of my uncles kind of pulled me to the side because there wasn't a lot to do and just started explaining how the pieces moved on the board. And it was a very memorable way to learn how to play chess. I guess, as I think about my career, the early part of my career, I'll probably break the metaphor a little bit. There's 3 things that stand out to me. One was my first job I was doing really well at. It was an entry-level position. I think I started in May, kind of right after graduation, and I ended up leaving in August. And I left that job primarily because I couldn't see many moves ahead. So I was doing pretty well. I was getting more responsibility, but ultimately, at the time it was you had to have an MBA or some credential to move to the next level, and that didn't make sense to me as a pretty young kid at the time. So I left that opportunity. I actually then was fortunate to find a job. I was a medical device vendor, so I spent a lot of time in the operating room with surgeons. I used to sell cardiac medical devices, which is a pretty crazy thing because part of what you're doing is you're selling to surgeons, and the other part of what you're doing is you're helping them, like while they're in surgery, as to how they should use the device. And I loved every part of that in terms of being in the operating room with surgeons. I hated every part of it that was about sales. And so I think my second kind of aha moment was, trying to get on a path that felt more fulfilling across the long haul, where I wouldn't have to do as much selling. And that was a pretty tough choice because you actually make a decent amount of money as a medical device vendor, at least as a pretty young college graduate. So, I took a step back, pretty significant step back in my career, but I went to a company at the time that we all came from that got acquired by Optum called the Advisory Board, and took on a pretty junior role. But what I could see was the potential to move multiple steps ahead, which is what was lacking in the first role. And what I could also see was the potential around roles that were compelling to me. So the opportunity to do consulting work or to work, directly with surgeons or providers or however you want to think about it. And that was it really has powered the last 18 years of my career, if I'm being honest. Maybe kind of the memorable thing starting out was at a pretty junior level. I still remember there was one meeting where I was able to take part of that experience from having worked with surgeons in the operating room and speak up in a conversation that had a lot of executives. And that was probably the first time that I recognized that just having an opinion, being willing to verbalize it in a session, even if people were a lot more senior than you, could really turn heads and get you noticed. And so that was just kind of a powerful moment early in my career. So that's probably where the chess and checkers metaphor breaks down. I think it probably guided some of those early decisions and early things that I was focused on. But it definitely, that way of thinking built a pretty important foundation for where I'm at today.
Yeah, your story actually points to something I want to drill down in for you all. But I did want to kind of break a little break in here and do another raffle. Feel like it might be a good time to give some stuff away. So Denise, she's our random number generator raffle lottery czar. Are you ready for another
Yeah.
raffle to give away some swag here from
Yeah, we've
this is
got
I think this
some.
is Optum swag.
Yeah, we've got some Optum swag. The first one is a North Face book bag, backpack, however you call it. So we know how pricey North Face can be. So it's high quality stuff we're giving away here. So I just spun. So drum roll, please. So Norbert Yuma is the winner of that backpack.
Norbert, finance chair.
So
So
we'll ping folks when they win, because obviously we'll have to send that through the mail. Obviously if you're comfortable enough to give us your mailing address. So Stacy should be reaching out to y'all for those prizes.
all right, so we'll be on the chat to give that you'll get that information from you. All right, well, we'll do some more raffles uh, in between questions here. Um, I want to kind of follow up on this idea of sacrifice, right? So you can in I see it more in chess, right? Where when your strategy um, requires it, sometimes you have to sacrifice a piece in order to put yourself in a better position to win. Where do you see, or can you recall an experience where you had to sacrifice something in order to put you in a better position career wise? And I'll call on Mark first this time.
So I will say that, over my career, I probably had a couple of experiences where either through opportunity or through decisions, I've had to basically make that choice as to do A or to do B. And the one that stands out for me most is I was in a job that I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed doing the job very well. I did not enjoy the person who I work for. The overall as a function of, he's probably still the smartest person I have ever met, holds probably 15, 20 different patents, just super bright guy, but really didn't have a real good handle on how to run a team of people who had to give input to him that might be contrary to what he wanted to do. So I was hired on to be, the main person managing their systems, and we it was a constant conflict because he had an idea as to how he thought things should run, and I had an idea as to how I thought things run. And I don't know that either one of them was actually wrong, but they came from different places. So we were constantly butting heads, and even though we were able to sit down and work through it, it was always a chore to get anything done, just because I would have to go through extra effort to explain them and convince him, and maybe go through a couple of rounds of doing it his way and showing him why it didn't work before I would get to the point where we would come to a compromise. So I made a decision to leave that job, even though I loved it, even though I was learning a lot, and took a chance in going to a consulting company where a friend of mine just happened to be in an executive position. And it was a big leap of faith for me. I had no previous knowledge of this company other than this one person who worked there. It really was going to mean that I was going to spend a little more time away from my family due to the requirements of the job. But ultimately, it worked out. Unfortunately, the company did not work out, but that was a function of the economics at the time. It was at the time of the big .com bust, and high tech companies were going out left and right. When I started with the company, there was about 675 people. And 3 years later, when I finally left the company, there was 25. And so I saw a lot of change, but through that entire shrink of that company, I, was one of the persons who they kept on. People who had come well before me were let go. People who had come after me were let go. But I was able to stay on. And there was times where I was really worried about it, but because I had proven myself early on, when I first stepped into that role, they had confidence in me that helped them, shut down and sell off their operations until such time that, they were, essentially, letting everyone know, hey, I think we have about, 6 to 9 more months of runtime with capital, and then we're shutting down. So they encouraged people to go out, look for a position, and they were giving people glowing recommendations as to. So it allowed me to transition, but it allowed me to learn a lot, and it was a huge leap of faith.
Gotcha. Yeah, and what I heard earlier in the story, there was a point in which there could have been a potential stalemate, right?
Yeah.
With your colleague, and a lot of times, in the chess world, like there's a point in which no one can win, right? And or maybe that you can't win, so there's a stalemate. So having to make decisions and sacrifices in order to avoid that, I think is part of our career navigation. So I'm gonna ask Patty to kind of give her spin on that, and I'm gonna drill down into it to be specific about where you had to sacrifice something you didn't think you had to, if there's an experience like that. So where did you sacrifice? Um, I don't want to say unwillingly, but at a point where you didn't have a choice, and what was how did you deal with that? How did you navigate that?
See, that's the thing. I don't think there was a situation that I had where I didn't have a choice, right? I've been thinking about it, while I was listening to Mark, and even before like this, because this is the third time that we do this, and I've always, I've at least I feel like I've always had the choice. I didn't necessarily like the options, right? But I always had a choice. And taking a back seat, because as a woman and as a Black woman in tech, when I first started being a DB and being a programmer, I was the only one of me in the room, whether it was the only woman or whether it was the only Black person, right? And double whammy for the Black woman, right? So I feel like I invested a lot. I took a lot of, we'll call it abuse, from colleagues. I took a lot of questioning my skill set. Um, I remember this one place I was interviewing, and I walked in. They're like, "You can't be the DBA we want to interview. You don't even look old enough to know what you need to know." And I was like, "Okay, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment." So I feel like
They
I
say
did all
black
this.
don't crack. That's what you
I
that's what
know,
you say
right?
to that.
That's exactly what they said. But so I did this 10, 15 years, in the trenches, working, proving my worth. And then here comes a situation where I really love the work that I do. I love the teams that I've built. I love the colleagues that I work with. But just as a human being, I can't do this anymore, or I don't want to do this anymore. And so taking that and taking that pause to be there for my family is a decision that I feel like men probably wouldn't have made, right? Whether that's valid or not, this is where I was coming from, and it was really hard, right? Again, I wasn't forced into it. I could have stayed in tech and kept on not sleeping, um, or I could invest in my family for just a little bit, and then hope that I can get back in tech. Well, I shouldn't say tech, in IT operations, because I was still in tech. So that was a very hard decision, right? It took a couple of months. I think my whole time while I was on maternity leave, and then even a couple of weeks after I came back, I was still thinking about this. Like, what am I really doing? Am I setting myself back? Excuse me. I'm on a call. Am I setting myself? This is the one. Am I setting myself back? Am I going to be able to get back in the game? Would I have lost some steps? Because as you know, technology moves very fast.
No worries, no worries. This is what I love about the life we're living right now with COVID. We are no longer in the space where we can't like ignore our families, which is great, right? Like I feel like
Is
that's the
it though?
way
Is
we
it great?
should.
It's so is from this side.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Um, and so yeah, and so I mean, all these questions, and they kind of still play, right? I'm still wondering, where would I be if I had not taken that step sideways? If it wasn't a step back, if I had taken that step sideways for those 3 years. So if when I think about sacrifices, that's the one that really comes to mind, because everything else, like I said, I was put in positions where I could excel, and I did excel, and it was recognized. And so I've always had great advocates around me to help me grow. But this is a decision that I made, and then I also had to think about what example am I setting? Am I setting the right example? Because as a leader, you're casting a specific shadow, and you don't know how it's going to be interpreted. So all these thoughts came into my mind as I made the decision. Right now, I do feel like it was the right decision. Um, I, I came back and I was able to grow, and I've been able to prosper. So I don't feel like I lost anything, but it's definitely something that comes to mind when I think of a sacrifice that I would have made in my career.
Yeah, you nailed it. I probably didn't word it right, but I like the way you presented it as you always had a choice. I think, when we do face dilemmas that are not preferable or they go against what we would see as ideal, we often interpret it or view it as, oh, we don't have a choice. Like you always have a choice. It just means that one
You
is
just might
is
not like
more,
it.
yeah, one is more
Mm-hmm.
painful than the other. So I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate your candidness with that, and I'll allow y'all to share if you have any experience. If not, I'll go to another question.
Yeah, I'll try and be quick. I'm an optimist. I'm just going to be transparent about that. I feel pretty fortunate in my career, and so on face value, it's hard for me to identify a ton of sacrifices. But Patty and Mark probably heard me give this answer once before. I think the biggest place I've learned to sacrifice is with my ego. It's and it's probably one of the things that time and time again, like when I can get to that place where I sacrifice my ego, it gets me a ton of benefit. I'll give you kind of two very specific. I'll give you one very specific moment. I remember I got passed over for a promotion in a really tough year. I'd been on the road, probably had 100,000 frequent flyer miles that year. I was really, really killing myself, and there was somebody, in a different role, candidly, but that I considered to be a peer that got to promotion ahead of me. And that was one of the closest times I ever, came to leaving the organization. I still remember how livid I was. I marched into my boss's office and, protested. And, to his credit, he said, "Hey, do you want me to try and fix this in the moment?" And after, sitting on it and calming down, I said no, and I just kind of banked that as some equity in the bank. But it did take a pretty big, sacrifice of my ego to be like, okay, I'm going to stick with this. I'm not going to go somewhere else. And when I look back on it, ultimately that one moment didn't speak anything to, the trajectory that I was on versus this other person. And that's not a very helpful comparison anyway, right? So like the competitive side of me, like over the long run, yeah, I crushed that person. But the better side of me, that was kind of a silly way to think about it. And then I think on a more day-to-day, week-to-week basis, the environment I try and create with my team is one where I can be wrong and am wrong, often, right? And you just kind of got to get yourself into that place where, you can sacrifice your perspective and point of view and understand it from somebody that, may know it better, may have figured it out faster than you. And so that's a skill that I try and, keep close by in my day-to-day work.
Well, so you already answered the question I was going to ask. Really, I was just going to frame it within the metaphor here, where checkers involves jumping over your opponent's pieces, right, to take them out. And so the question was about, was there ever a time you felt overlooked for an opportunity, for a career opportunity? So you answered that, and how did you handle it? So I'll throw it back to Mark or Patty. Or do you have a follow?
Let me get one more quick one in there, and I apologize, I'm long-winded, so I'll try and make this short. But so I'll probably give you the first time. There was a second time where I was competing with somebody else for a position. We both interviewed. They were, I didn't know who I was interviewing against. They were a little bit more senior, and they got the role. And probably another one of those moments about like, okay, how do you react and how do you respond? And I ended up, I was basically working for that person at the time, right? We both competed for the same job, and now I was, in effect, reporting to them. And I put my, everything into it. I just treated it as if, that was the way that things should work. And it's fascinating to me how that's paid dividends down the line. That person is now pretty senior within our organization, but has been a champion for me and other roles and other opportunities that have come along. Anyway, short snippet, but I would say that's probably the more impactful moment in my career was, losing to somebody fair and square on a role, figuring out how to work for them. And, there was never a guarantee at the time that it would pay dividends, but it has certainly been a huge help for my career.
So sounds like a sore loser in one scenario, and you learned a few things about having humility in the next go around. Turned out well.
Yeah,
Mark?
I think that's fair. I've grown up a little bit.
Yeah. Mark, do you have an experience where you felt jumped over? And
Yeah, I will be honest. As much as I would like to say, like y'all, I was the gracious, the gracious person. I think in my situation, I wasn't as gracious because, honestly, I think the situation that was in is there was someone who was essentially giving out promotions on his way out. And because he and I didn't actually ever see eye to eye, it was like, you get a promotion, you get a promotion, you get a promotion, and you get a promotion. And I was someplace here in the middle. But honestly, it stung for a few days, mostly because I was mad, because more so the fact that everyone else got, something. But honestly, it didn't change what I was going to do the next day. I knew that I still had to show up to work. I also knew that, within 2 weeks' time, this person wasn't going to be around and someone else was going to be new. And I would need to prove myself to them. And some of the people who, and having met the replacement person, I knew some of the people who had actually received those permissions or those promotions were not going to make it, because this person had a completely different view as to how they saw things running. And I think, I knew that these people did not fit into that vision. And to be honest, it worked out for me. I was able to prove myself. I was able to continue to advance, continue to show leadership within the team, even more so than these other people, because these other people got elevated from non-manager positions to manager positions, and they really had no background in it. So when push came to shove in meetings, my boss would ask questions, my new boss would ask questions, and he would look at everyone and start asking, well, what do you think? And people didn't know, and people didn't want to respond because they knew they didn't have the experience to be able to make a qualified answer. And he would turn to me, he's like, so what do you think? I'm like, well, here's what we need to do, and here's why we need to do it. And here's why we don't need to do this other thing, because we've done it before and it didn't work out real well. And ultimately it fared well for me. But like y'all, I had to kind of put aside my feelings about, not having got a promotion when everyone else did, and just realize that, their promotions were really ended up being promotions in title only, and really not the respect, not the responsibility, and ultimately, my position was shown through the effort that I put into it. So,
yeah, I think there's value in recognizing that you lost an opportunity, but at the same time looking at, well, how do you position yourself to get the opportunity that's for you, following that disappointment. So I'm gonna give it another break in the time. We got a few, maybe like 9 or 10 minutes left in the session. Want to do a couple more raffles. In that time, if folks have questions that they want to ask directly to the panel, please feel free to post them in the chat. So I'm going to ask Denise, if you would. Let's go with two more
Chat, by the
winners.
way, is hilarious. I don't know if you've been reading the comments.
I'm gonna try to
The
keep up.
comments are hilarious. I'm trying
I'm
not
trying
to
to keep
read
up.
it too much because then I can't keep up with the answers.
Okay. The next raffle we have is for a stainless steel water bottle. And I just spun. Let's see here. we've got Jeremy Barnett is the winner of said water bottle.
Congrats, JB. You can
Thank
send it to my address. I'll get it to him. No.
I haven't seen E in like 2 years. I don't know.
All right, and then we're gonna do one more, correct?
Yes.
Oh, and I think Stacy can actually show the prizes too. I told her she's my Vanna White.
See her. There she is.
All right, so she just showed the water bottle. I believe the next one that we have are, sorry, I have music playing in my ears from this thing. But the next one is webcam covers, I believe. And do we have a gift card? Is that part of that prize as well? Okay. So a webcam cover and a Starbucks gift card is going to Dominique Shells.
Congrats, Dominique. Make sure you get your information. So how many more prizes do we have?
Let's see here.
I want to make sure I spread them out. Do a couple for the people that stay for the long haul.
We've got about 2 or 3 left.
Okay, cool. All right,
Depending
we'll
on
save the
timing
rest.
and everything.
Yeah,
we do have a question for the panelists if we want to kind of segue to that really quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So if you could live in any African American based sitcom, what would it be and why?
That was a question from Chris. I already know. Yep, I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it. Chris.
So I guess we can start with y'all.
All right. I'll give 2 answers. Definitely Fresh Prince of Bel-Air would be number 1. And, you know, I just think that has so many corollaries to, you know, some of the challenges in growing your career, right? It's a bit about assimilation. It's a bit about, you know, different backgrounds and expectations. And so that would probably be the one. And then I guess the deeper answer, which you didn't ask, but I'll ask my own question and response is, if I could remake a sitcom as a African-American based sitcom, which would it be? And that would definitely be the Golden Girls. I think there needs to be an African-American version of the Golden Girls on so many levels. And it's embarrassing to admit this on a Zoom with 20 people you don't know, but I'm a hardcore Golden Girls fan. So
yeah.
Yeah, you'll be surprised how many closet Golden Girl fans there are. My wife is not a closet Golden Girls fan, by the way. We have the entire season. That was a birthday gift for her several years ago. But yes. Anybody else want to take on that question?
I can take it. I think it would be either Girlfriends or Living Single. I know that growing up, it was one of the things, even more than Cosby Show, that I really, I guess, latched onto. The many African American women living together, being great friends, having careers, are things that I really, I guess, I hadn't seen in the neighborhoods that I had grown up in, and they weren't the friends that we had. So it's just something that I always aspired. I mean, my sisters and I would always say that we'd be the living singles people. Didn't quite happen that way, but still. So we'd be one of those 2.
All right. I'm going to throw one out there, and everyone can judge me one way or the other, but I will say one of my favorite series of recent, more so than of any other time, was, I think it's on Netflix, Dear White People. I found a lot of, I identified with a lot of what went on, mostly because I could identify someone in my college and immediate post-college career that fit each one of those individuals. And it made me really, truly realize that I don't care where you go to school, I don't care if you go to a historically Black college or university, a Ivy League school, a state school, you're always going to find the same people. And it's the people that you associate with more from those universities that either make or break your experience than the actual school itself. And I would say, I went to school here in Texas. I went to school, locally. I went to a school that is now twice the size that it was when I went there. And I'm now actually getting to see some of that through my daughter's eyes because she's actually going there as well. And, I recognize that, that carries on into life and, your work career as well, that you can find and identify something with everyone. And the situations just change by the people's names, not necessarily by the situation. So if you haven't seen it, I would suggest it. So.
Yeah, I see it. I see it. Yeah, I'm gonna answer the question just because I want to answer the question. But different world. I went to an
Awesome.
HBCU,
That,
so
that was actually my second choice because I envy them for their college experience.
yeah,
I
yeah.
have a number of friends who went to mostly East Coast, historically Black universities, and their experience is so different from mine. And I kind of wish that my college experience had been more like theirs. So.
So thank you, Chris, for derailing the entire discussion with your random question on the chat line. Any other questions, Stacy? I mean, not Stacy, Denise from the chat that we want to ask of the panel. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and close out with our raffles. Thank you again to each of you on the panel. We appreciate your insights, your candidness, and just sharing in the experience. I appreciate everybody that's stuck with us on the call. We hope that you got a little bit from it. I'm recording it, and I typically will try to put it on our NSBE AP YouTube channel. So if you want to come back to it, we'll have it on there as well. But Denise, I'm gonna let you take it away with the rest of the raffles. Make sure we give away everything that you all had, and we'll close out.
Yeah. We've got two left. So the first one is for like a carabiner kind of clip thing, power bank, so a battery charger. And so I've already spun, and Chris Hister, I believe, is the winner for that one.
There you go, Chris. You
If Chris is
got your
still on.
yeah. Oh yeah, Chris is still up.
It just saw us coming. Okay, awesome. All right. Let's see. Spinning for the last one, which is another webcam cover and Starbucks gift card combination. And the winner is Miss Enam Uteen.
She snuck in there, didn't
If she's
she?
still on here. Oh, well, I mean, Enam's one of my friends, so I can get that to her.
Must be present to win. Must be present
I
to
know,
win.
right?
The
I
rules
know,
are
right?
always
Friend. She's going to keep it for her friend.
right.
Come on now, Denise.
No, she'll actually get it. Yep, that's it for the raffles.
All right. Thanks, Denise, for supporting me on that.
Sure.
Again, we thank the panelists for attending, and we're gonna do this again. It seems like for at least the next couple of COVIDs, although they said there's a vaccine that's moving to the next level. We will still be virtual, just to let you know, as a chapter. So, uh, why can't Sanford and Son get? Oh yeah, Greg, because
Oh, I love Sanford and Son.
yeah, I mean it's a great show, but do you want to
I want
be
to
work?
live there.
Yeah, do you
No,
want to live in the junkyard? Is that what you're
no,
saying?
no.
That's why I can't get no love, man. Uh, what was the last thing? I was gonna say, if you're okay with it, panelists, if you want to share your information on the chat for people to follow up, or if you want to reach out directly to the panelists, you can in the chat. I don't know how long you all will be able to hang around for a little bit, but again, thank you, and we will do this again. Our next month is our networking event, and we usually do like a holiday type theme. We have a couple of ideas that we're trying to align to the social distancing. So one is a game night. So we'll do a virtual game night, or we will do a drive-in movie. So maybe we can figure out a classic movie we can all enjoy through like a drive-in experience. So I should have put that in the poll, but we'll figure that out. Again, those that are interested in getting involved with NSBE, please reach out. I think Greg already posted my email, the chat. It's simple, president at nsbeap.org. You can see our handles on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at NSBAP. Give us a follow. Tell your friends, tell your colleagues. Anybody can be a part of NSBE if you are committed to the mission. So white, black, brown, doesn't matter. If you're down with the mission, you can be a member. So please share with your colleagues and see if they would be interested in getting involved. Thank you again for hanging out with us. Denise and Stacy, I want to make sure you got everybody's contact information. Greg, did you get everybody's uh, gift certificates and emails to make sure that they get their prizes?
Oh yeah, they not, some have already ordered.
I thought that would be good. You know, it's 6:30, so I'm about to get my grub on as well. Thank you, everybody, and y'all.